Good night. Good night. Good night.
Let me know if you can hear me well. Um, we're having some challenges with the software tonight. So we're not having our usual introduction. We're just trying to ensure that the audience can hear me. Just let me know if you can hear me. Just somebody in the comments. Um, just let me know if you can, if my audio is fine, the camera is fine. Um, hmm, good. No, I'm gonna bring Ramon in. Ramon, could you say something? Uh,
Good night, ladies and gentlemen. Good night, Kemar. You can hear me? You can hear me,
uh,
Kemar?
could you repeat that?
Can you hear me? Good night. You can hear me? You can hear me? Can you hear me? That's it? You can't hear me.
But I hear you now, but I have a echo. So let me just turn off one your
Yes.
wait. You're
Can you
loud
hear
and
me
clear
now?
now.
Beautiful. Beautiful. All right, good night.
Yes, I think that
Very
that was
good.
my device.
Pardon me?
Wait, I was speaking, but I could not hear in my
Okay.
headphone.
Okay. Got you.
I removed the headphone now, but I have to put it back in. Otherwise, you want to observe my background.
Okay.
So I just want to make that picture. So in the meantime, you could go ahead and introduce um, yourself to the alternate viewers who also here
For
already.
sure. For sure. For sure.
I'm going to bring I'm going to give him the honors of introducing this week's new cohort. So
All right.
over to you, Ramon.
All right. Good night, viewers. Good night, Kemar. Hope you guys had a fantastic and blessed day. Another fantastic program for you. Alternate views. Remember, keep those views coming. Keep those comments coming. Tonight, you're gonna have another co-host. She is much easier on the eyes for sure. So the viewers, they're gonna have lovely time. Listening to her views, listening to her comments, and we're gonna have a conversation tonight. A conversation, as per usual. Keep those alternate views coming. And that lovely co-host, her name is Malissa Howard.
Hi, good night, Ramon and Kemar, and good night to the viewers. I am very humble and excited to be on the show tonight, and happy to be here. Can you hear me? You can hear me?
No, I can't hear you, Melissa. Yeah, we're having some challenges here with the audio. Okay, she has gone out to come back in. We'll be having some challenges throughout the night, but no worries. We will continue to press forward and we will get it right. We will get it sorted out. Quick and in a hurry. Quick
Yes.
and in a hurry. Just give us a couple minutes.
Yes. Well, we are, as Ramon said, the technology is not working out so well with us, but let us try to keep it going. Let us have back Melissa. I'm also trying to get my camera and stuff back up and functioning. This is very strange tonight, but we're going to push through, focusing on the positive, and we're going to have a very good show this evening. We also have a guest in studio.
Okay.
Yeah, he's in studio, but we're
Any
not going to.
audio as yet? Melissa?
All right, yeah, can you hear me?
Some reason I'm actually unable to hear you.
Well, the viewer said that
Let me see
they
if
were hearing.
Yeah, I can hear her, and the viewers can hear her. Seems that you're the person who
question is
cannot
the
hear.
viewers are the viewers hearing you? That's the question.
Yeah, the viewers can hear her,
I'm not
Ramon.
too sure.
It's just
Just hold a
you
second.
that can't hear her. So you can hear me, right, Melissa?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Right. The audience is hearing her. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna uh, try again with Ramon and bring Ramon back on the platform. So
Okay.
Melissa, if you're gonna try to get him out and back in quick.
All right, no problem.
Yes. So as we said, this is Malissa Howard. Welcome her to the show, so Melissa. The floor is all yours to introduce yourself to the alternate viewers. As you know, our show focus mainly and truly on economics, and economics really and truly touch every sector and every facet of life. So we don't discuss hard numbers per se. We don't discuss formulas and stats. We bring alternative views and putting it into the context where even the average layman person or the average child or even a public servant or anybody in general to really understand modern day economics. So the floor is all yours to introduce yourself to the audience.
Okay, hi, my name is Malissa Howard. I am not an economist, and I am not like Kemar, who is financially savvy, but I will do my very best to contribute to the show tonight and have a very impactful contribution.
Okay. Just testing. You guys can hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Beautiful. Can
Yes,
the
I can
viewers?
hear you.
Beautiful. Can the viewers hear me? That's the question as well.
Yeah. In the meantime, when we find out
Alright.
Ramon,
No problem.
this evening's discussion. Yes, this evening's discussion is really and truly about education, right? And education in the context of Barbados being in an IMF program and what that means for Barbadian society. Now, recently we've been having a lot of challenges, structural challenges within schools and in the education system in Barbados. We see a lot of proposed changes. We saw education reform in terms of removing the 11 plus and so. So we want to have that basic introduction first and get an opinion from all of you, and then we're going to dive right in. So as you're the resident host, we're going to hand over to you, and then you can direct over to Melissa.
All right. Just wondering. I'm hoping that everyone can hear me. Yes. Education IMF program is education under the knife. Yes. Throughout the weeks, we've been seeing many challenges. We've been seeing schools not ready. We've been seeing lots and lots of noise, lots and lots of charity is fantastic, and kudos and big ups to everyone who would have assisted in assisting obviously the little ones going back into school. That is always fantastic, but we've seen a serious influx of people reaching out and trying to assist the little ones, right? That seems to be trending. I'm hoping as it trends downwards to a certain extent. If help is needed, then obviously you would give that type of assistance. But there is something lacking there. What is missing? The things are so hard with the families and so forth under this IMF program that they are unable to afford the simple and basic necessities of going back to school. Is that happening? That is the question that we will ask tonight. We would obviously look into what could be the situation, what could be the deficiencies in the school system, and obviously we will try to tie in, and we will see if it is a situation that the IMF program, if that is impeding the progress of funding, etc. So I will know. Obviously, I think I would have done a basic introduction before. She would have said her part, but I will now like to reintroduce you, and she will say a little bit. She has a little experience in charity. She has a little bit experience giving back to her school, and what she has been seeing on the ground is a situation where she would explain, and she would allow us to know what is happening on the ground. So I'll hand over now to Malissa Howard.
All right. I heard Kemar mentioning education reform, and from my research, education reform is a main end result in IMF involvement in countries. I saw in 2004, Tajikistan went into the IMF program, and one of the requirements from the IMF was a reduction of employees in the education sector by 5%. And it was also stated that they will reduce the number of employees in education by 30% over a period of 3 to 5 years. We will begin the process of downsizing by reducing the number of budgetary employees in the education sector by 5% as of July 2004. And further, the plan will address reform of the education budget system with a move to more school autonomy, introduction of a fee schedule, expansion of teaching assignments, curriculum reform, and private sector involvement. And if you see in Barbados right now, I think it was last year when the Ministry of Education brought a proposal for the education reform, changing from pre-primary, primary school, and secondary to pre-primary, primary, junior college, and senior college, which is from past IMF involvement in other countries, is the path that other countries under the IMF program have taken. So you already can see the IMF involvement in our education system. I also saw yesterday a clip on CBC with a representative complaining about the shortage of staff at several schools. Some schools have a shortage of like 3 to 4 teachers. So that confirms the reduction in staff in schools. So you can see the heavily involvement in the IMF already.
But this is interesting because I can tell you something, word on the streets and on the ground, the teachers tired. They're tired already as it is. So you could imagine though, you've one of your I guess colleagues, they gotta go home because of the whole program. They gotta go home because they're cutting. So they're gonna be extra tired now. And then obviously you gotta look at for teachers, it's a big thing to be appointed. A big thing. They want to know, they want to look at stability and so forth. So it's not looking good based on what you just mentioned and the type of research you've done, which is tremendous. But that's what you're seeing coming out of all this here, to be very honest with you.
Yeah, they're not just also tired, but frustrated as well.
Yeah,
so
right.
All the different health issues and what's not in the schools.
Yeah, definitely. That's what I mean by tired too as well. The tired being tired, and the tired being tired. So I can see some challenge, and then the effort that obviously can be lacking that they might be able to put in because they're just physically and emotionally tired because one of the colleagues gone home and then the extra hands right? So that is something that I see, obviously, Lord forbid, happening in the future, right? So thanks for the research, Melissa.
Yes. Well, thank you guys for the introduction. That was very good to hear from both perspectives. Melissa definitely opened up a segue into the next part of the questions, but I we're gonna do a little change in the room tonight. Since things are not going to, the way we planned, we're gonna completely toss it up in the air, and we're gonna bring the guest on right early, right? Now, the guest that is coming on, his name is Nigel Franklin, and he's a product of Barbados's education system, like all of us. But he would have migrated into other parts of the world, and he would have experienced their education system as well. He's very passionate on the area of education. He's an entrepreneur, the owner of Black Champion Lifestyles. So we're gonna bring him on. We don't want to steal the thunder, right? We're gonna bring him on and let him share his perspective. In the meantime, Ramon signs back on. So we're gonna get him in here. Let him join this conversation where his perspective, having both local and overseas education, let him join in. I see where he's going on his alternate view. So let me get him in right now. Um,
Okay, good evening,
yes,
everyone.
Hi, good evening.
Hi, good
Can you
evening,
hear me?
Nigel. Good evening.
yes,
Okay. Good evening, alternate viewers. Hey, Melissa. Hey, Ramon. Thank you very much for having me on, Mr. Stewart.
yeah. It's my honor. Welcome to Barbados, or welcome back. Sorry, uh, to Barbados. Well, I would have given you a brief intro. So the alternate viewers will want to know who are you. Who's Nigel Franklin? Why are you on this show? Um, what brings you here to be on with Ramon and Melissa and Kimara? What are your alternate views?
Okay. Well, as you can see, my name is Nigel Franklin, son of the soil, born and raised in Barbados. I migrated to the US in 2014 to pursue my bachelorette at New York City College of Technology. I pursued electrical technology degree that has allowed me to start my own business, NJF Tech Services, where some of the clients would be national broadcasting networks like ABC, NBA, PGA. I also have own a brand called Black Champion Lifestyle. It is built and centered around just living authentically, with parameters such as scholarship, travel, and networking as the base foundations. And as Kimar said, very very passionate about education. I think education is the key to self improvement, to developing and designing your own self system. And that's pretty much it for right now. You're muted, Kimar.
Yes, sorry. We started a conversation, and uh, I guess you would have been listening to what all of us would have said. No, you went to school here in Barbados, right? You sat the 11 plus, like all of us here, right? Um, I will leave it up to you to say which school you attended, you know. Um, but we're speaking about how being in an IMF program, and I suppose you know something about how the IMF operates within countries, and
Mhm.
how the impact of the measures that are put forward in terms of these adjustment programs, and how they impact education at large, and essentially how they impact society and the people, because the people are the ones who consume state funded education. And we mean it specifically Barbados because the state pays for education in Barbados right up to tertiary level, right? So we're hearing about a change in society that could impact all of us, and the education reform that Barbados is proposing includes the removal of the 11 plus. So my initial thoughts here are that the reality of being on that IMF austerity program poses a huge block for Barbados to continue 100% universal state funding of the education system, right? So the traditional model of publicly funded education, in my opinion, it meets a sad fate, and that sad fate is just a simple measure of achieving the IMF target, right? So, what are your thoughts and what are your opinions on the reality that the education system in Barbados, state funded, of course, now meets a fear of meeting an IMF target where we have to do cuts and tax increases, yada yada yada. What is your opinion?
Well, piggybacking off of what Ramon said in terms of teachers who retired, um, the the amount of effort that is needed to actually educate students, not only through the formal education, but just through being there as figureheads. I, for one, went to St. Michael's School. I know for sure that some of the teachers there played much bigger roles than just teachers. They allow students to express themselves in a way where they may not have been able to in their home circumstances. Allow them to have a different perspective based on their blueprints, and to have a IMF program come in to somehow make that now more stringent and take away some of what is already present. Obviously, that would not be of good benefit to the youth.
Melissa,
Um, sorry, what was the question again? Sorry.
right, we were focusing on the education reform. One of the points that you raised,
Mm-hmm.
um, the impacts of being under the adjustment programs where Barbados would have to be meeting the IMF targets. So it comes down to the simple fact now that education at large um, is basically a financial or economic decision. I mean, we're looking at the impacts that it would have on the people, the ones who consume public education, and the fact that state funded education at large, which is primary, secondary, tertiary, is on the track, given the fact that we have to be cutting in order to meet the IMF targets.
Yeah. One of the well, three of the most popular policies that they implement will be introducing education fees, privatizing the schools, and targeting the teachers' salaries. And obviously, if you're introducing more fees, that's more expense to the parents. Cost of living is already high, so we're adding more stress to families. How are people going to survive? That's the angle that I will be looking at it from. Privatizing the schools. Who can afford to pay for education, even if it's primary or tertiary? How many of us have that extra income?
Well, you know that in Jamaica, there's private education. Um, there's a shift system in Jamaican schools, and the fees that they have to pay in terms of schools. Um, we don't have that in Barbados, but remember that Jamaica had an IMF program, a very deep IMF program, even deeper than deeper to some extent than the one that Barbados has.
Yeah.
So what you just said, well, it says perfectly accurate in terms of the privatization of education, and you rightfully asked the question now, how many Barbadians can afford to pay for private education for primary school children? Really? Um, so on that note, though, we're gonna ask Ramon to contribute, and then we're going to take comments from other, and then we're going to move on to the next topic.
Yeah, as Nigel mentioned, teachers were mothers, fathers. They obviously give assistance in areas, beyond. They were actually able to go beyond the call of duty, and they felt good doing it. They felt fantastic doing it with incentives, obviously, uh, null and void, no, to a certain extent, or the lack of incentives in terms of finances. Uh, you know, in terms of the efforts they might then put in, no, uh, obviously it might definitely uh, be reduced in a serious way. And Nigel, again, very, very good points. Teachers would have nurtured the little ones when I was actually attending school. Right? You would go to a teacher, you would explain certain things, and there would be some level of comfort and mentorship. So with now the schools, the thoughts of the schools being privatized, we can hardly afford it not privatized. So I can only imagine the road we can be going down in a couple of years if this happens. Right? The basic things we can't afford now. So imagine now having to pay school fees and so forth. Right? So I can see a rough road if it continues along this trajectory. To be honest with you, and Lord forbid it doesn't go in that direction. But it won't be looking good if this privatization, and it would not look good at all. It would be very uncomfortable, more uncomfortable for the consumers, for the adults, for the children, and the teachers as well too. So I don't see it. I don't see it. I don't see it being a positive thing. If these measures being implemented, I don't see it a positive thing.
But let me ask you a question, Ramon. For the policymakers, for the decision makers, they are tasked with the decision either to meet IMF targets and run the risk of failing the program, or to make the required cuts to the education system. Not only to education, but we discuss education, but there's also cuts to health. There's also cuts to the attorney general and like the police and other ministries. So what are the decision makers to do when their hands are tied behind their backs, and that we need, well, not that we need, but they put us in a situation where we need to continue accessing IMF resources. So what will give in between?
That's a very good question. But we must look at the social implications. We see when someone is unable to reason, and in terms of their education and so forth is lacking. We see a trend where the person is you can't reason with them. So the domino effect of that, I mean, is not all that plays there, right? There are other factors, but the domino effect of that is the person being violent. So we talk about the crime. We could go into that. I mean, we're not going into that tonight, but one of the domino effects of somebody who you can't reason with and so forth, who's unable to express themselves. You see that they lash out is by being violent. That is one of the factors as well too. So we gotta look at this thing in a real serious way, right? And try to be as balanced as possible if you can. But again, hands behind the back, so it is
Yeah,
going to be challenging.
yeah. So thank you
Yeah,
for that intervention.
yeah.
Nigel, a quick comment from you, and then a quick comment from Melissa.
Well, as Ramon said, it's like a dog being cornered. What do you want him to do? The only thing he got to do is to defend himself. And what are the tools of defense in this case? We're up against a power that is much larger than our system. Um, almost like a David and Goliath story. So what would be the intervention there? I don't have an answer to that question,
Change the
unfortunately.
government.
Yeah, yeah. You will say something, Melissa. Let's hear it.
I was answering him and saying the solution would be to change the government.
Whoa, that is a very strong claim to make. Um, I mean, I can't say disagree, right? I can't say disagree. But in changing the government, though, there must be a plan to tackle the problem that exists and that we are needy into this program. And Guyana that went through IMF programs, Trinidad, we see the impacts of that. But there are some success stories to a point, and I say to a point. So it's really not really in terms of success stories nearby in the Caribbean. So St. Kitts went into IMF program as well, and they got out. They're no longer strangled. I think Grenada also had a short IMF program, if I can remember, and they got in, got out. So there there are possibilities out there for Barbados to get in, get out, but the fact remains that we were in since 2018, and there seems not to be any out, and
Yeah,
we
we
are
entered another
continuing
one.
the yeah we're continuing now the cycle of falling deeper and deeper into using IMF resources, and again the topic tonight is education, right? Education in the sense that when you educate less of a population, right? When you educate less of a population where there's less um opportunity, where there's less hope, um I understand the notion of discipline and economic discipline and balancing budgets and running surplus, but there needs to be a level of social investment in the country, and Barbados, for whatever reasons, and we thank the foresight of the past leaders of this country to implement free education, because free education is what brought a country of poor villagers into being doctors, lawyers, um, prime ministers, leading Fortune 500 corporations all around the world. Barbados' education system was regarded as basically the best in the world for the quality of student that we put out in the workforce, right? So you guys remember COVID, where we had to make a shift from rote school, attending school, and we had to go online. There was a large chunk of young Barbadians who were left out of receiving having access to education because they didn't have the requisite devices like the tablets and the phones and the computers. Like what we have, like what we're here on now, which is an education forum, literally, the young people of Barbados did not have that. Right? So given the fact that we just paid out X amount of millions in interest and pay back to the IMF and other people, what resources can we put aside to capture those persons who were lost during COVID? And we saw the impacts of it in the result that came out in terms of how the students perform in maths and how they perform in English. And, and this seems not to just be a Barbadian problem. Like this seems to be a Caribbean wide problem now. So as we're all Barbadians here, but I want your guys' perspective on the fact that COVID seems to have impacted the entire Caribbean in a very serious way. We had serious learning loss, and I want your guys' opinion on. No, I just want your opinion at large. So last time we got started at Niger, so this time we're gonna start at Melissa.
All right, no problem. During COVID, moving online, as you said, there were students who suffered because they didn't have any devices, and there were also students who would sign in online, but won't actually be there sitting at the computer attending the classes, and the teachers won't be able to know if they are there or not. Then the students that really need the help, the extra help, they wouldn't have been able to be assisted because they were home. And if they need the extra help, who's there to help them? So they will fall even further back than they were before. So there you will see why there was a decrease in the achievements that we had over the years.
Yeah, true, true. Um, right. Any further comment? Any further comment, Melissa?
Oh, you mean me? Sorry, I thought you
Yeah,
meant
yeah,
someone else.
yeah.
Um, I believe students need attention, well, physical attention, and not to be left alone, especially primary school children that are young, to be left alone to learn on their own. They need guidance. And then if you are reducing the amount of teachers in the schools, and and not only that, you close down certain schools, so you're increasing the amount of students to the teacher, to one teacher. So how is the teacher going to handle an increased amount of students?
Mhm. Well, very interesting. We say that I actually read a paper published by the IMF very recently, which spoke to the teacher to student ratio, right? The teacher to
Mm-hmm.
student ratio, and increasing the amount of students per teacher. And this is obviously to cut resources. Now, the government of Barbados' wage bill was under threat from the IMF as being too high. Um, you rightfully said before that you saw a post where they said there's a shortage of teachers, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you know of young people who probably went to school with you who have qualifications. I can't get a job teaching,
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
right? So make it make sense for us.
So some people will ask, what's the point of going to school and getting an education if you can't get a job?
Correct, correct. All right. So we're gonna get Nigel in. No, we had Nigel. So we're gonna get Ramon and then get Nigel last.
All right. So let me be clear. Um, Not only did the children they didn't have devices, but they did not have electricity, and then it also was brought to light that some places, some buildings, or some homes in 2024 didn't have an indoor bathroom. So it went, the comfort isn't there, the electricity was not there. So let me just be frank. So it was extremely difficult for those little ones, head to tail. No, I found that we do a lot of maths, we do a lot of English, and so forth, right? Some of the low ones, yeah, but then little more. But some of the students that I went to school with, some of them you would see them with bad grades and so forth, and they were able to come out of school and use their hands. It's not that they weren't intelligent. The most intelligent people, they weren't doing well, right? Because they were bored with the math, with the English, math and English, fantastic, right? Have that. But you got to create a space and an environment for people to use the hands in schools. I see those things are being implemented. Hello? Sorry.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
anybody, right? I see those things are being implemented as we go along, right? But they got to be stronger. They got to be stronger. And obviously, you need money for the machinery. You need money for the people that come in to teach those things, right? Because they're more handsy, they're more hands on, right? And that is going to cost money. Now, with the reform and so forth, I mean, what what is going to happen? Because again, we can't provide the basics for the math, the English, the accounts, those things. When we get now down to the more technical things, like the electronics, the woodworks, the And these things are important. These things are important. And there are people who are extremely good with the hands, fantastic with the hands, right? Fantastic with the hands. So, and you need a budget to do it. So with these cuts now, you can't provide the environment to allow the students to learn the English and the math properly. What you can do when you really get strong and hard regarding the other subjects, like the woodwork and so forth, right? So that's my fear. I think you gotta get stronger where that is concerned. And with the program, obviously, with the cuts and so forth, it is gonna make things more. So you ain't got, for lack of better words, children that more bored, right? For lack of better words, right? And again, that can domino. Bored students become sometimes violent adults. Again, we're going on that road again, right? So, it's something that we should really look at and see how we can deal with it and nip it in the bud as
Right,
early as possible.
right. Ramon, I want you to state a pain on a.
Mhm.
Uh, I keep hearing you making a specific connection to the lack of access to education to an increase in crime and potential to do criminal activity. I keep hearing you make that linkage.
Of
Now,
course.
I want you to hold that because we want to
Mhm.
discuss that a bit later. Right.
No
So
problem. No problem.
hold on that point. So Nigel, over to you.
So it will come from a perspective, where with the understanding that the government is somehow stretched and there's no more they can do. This is now where the possibility and the potential for social programming comes in, or nonprofit organizations that have a vested interest in mentorship or just providing additional support where there is none. So I'm using my example. I work with a nonprofit organization up here in the US called 500 Men Making a Difference, where they would come in sometimes where they don't have enough books or technology. They would crowdsource from the organization and other vested interested parties in order to provide that little relief. But truth be told, it's not much that can. It's not a lot, but it's just a little. That would be a more positive outlook on the situation. Also, no, it would require a lot more hands-on for some parents in the cases in COVID where students may have been home. Um, Parents may not have necessarily been formally educated, so they may have had struggles in helping their child, keep up with what needs to be done in the curriculum. But I do think that it does give a possibility and potential for social action programs and nonprofit programs to come and provide some type of alleviation, if any.
Yeah. Well, I think here no. Um, a couple of questions that I noted here, right? Um, I spoke to the increasing level of interest payments, repayments on debt that Barbados as a country has to continue paying out because of being in the adjustment program, right? So that automatically means less revenue available to run the education system, right? So unless you have a government prioritizing or governments prioritizing, it's about, all right, hey, we're in the program, but still we're going to increase spending in the system because this is our largest, biggest investment, which is the people, right? We're going to, because within the people is endless potential, right? And if you educate the people, some type of wealth could spring from the people if we continue to educate them. Um, but I wanted to look at it from a perspective of uh, private funded education, right? Privately funded education. Um, let's look at the private school system versus the public school system. Um, it's more competitive at the primary school level per se, There are a lot of private primary schools in Barbados. Um, there are some private secondary schools in Barbados, right? And from all reports, these classrooms seems to be very full. Our results and performance seem to be very high or higher or average as compared to the public school system. Now that set me to look for something, and I wanted to see how much revenue is spent on education in Barbados, right? How much revenue is spent on education in Barbados. So I'm putting it up on the screen. Uh, this is the estimates of revenue and expenditure of Barbados. And this right here is the Ministry of Education, uh, Technological and Vocational Training, right? And it says here, just scrolling it up, right, that for the year 2024 to 2025, I'm going to zoom in close that you can see it. I want you to look at a specific column here, and let's see, the table will not start moving, right? But I'm hoping that you can see the total of, it says total head, hoping everybody can see it. I want you to come across to the column of revised estimate, right? Revised estimate. And it says basically here that the government of Barbados for the year 2003 to 2024 spent $587 million on the education budget, right? $587 million on the education budget. And for the year 2024 to 2025, they are projecting that they will spend $651 million. So that is an increase in the education budget, right? That is an increase in the education budget. So there's revised estimates 2023 to 2024, and then there's estimates 2024 to 2025. So it shows you, just to repeat, that the government spent for 2023 to 2024 587 million, and they are projecting that they will spend $651 million for 2024 to 2025, right? The breakdown, that spending, the Ministry of Education spends on direction and policy formulation. They spent roughly $19 million on that. For teacher training, they spent $5 million. For basic education development, $161 million. For secondary education, $160 million. For tertiary education, $185 million. And for special services, I don't know what's that, $34 million. And for occupational training, um, they spent roughly $20 million. But the overall budget here is $587 million with a projected increase. Now, if you're looking at increased spending into the system, right? If you're looking at increased spending into the system, I am putting the question to each one of you. Where would you put an increase in spending at the education budget? Which part of the education system uh would any of you guys, and where would you put that increased budget? No, I can open the floor to whoever wants to go first.
I would say direction, because no, that will provide structure. And with the proper structure, you would be able to create feedback loops, and where you can see uh or provide some checks and balances. You could see, well, this is working, this is what we will continue to do. This is not working. This is working a little bit. We need to fine tune it. I think with the investment into that area, then everything would fall into line and be in order. Because if you only invest in one area, let's say a tertiary, but primary and secondary has cuts. Now, when those students get to that level, they will be struggling. So they won't really they'll be on the level, but not necessarily um capable of the level of education coming from that level. So if we start at the foundation of everything and make that strong and secure, then I think everything else will fall into line.
Mm.
Mm.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I believe the
Totally.
viewers. Sorry, go ahead, Melissa.
No, you can go ahead.
Yeah, I believe the viewers they just want to see that chart again, please.
You want to say again?
You, the
Yeah,
viewers are you.
the viewers would love to see that chart again.
Right. Yes, this chart is important, because I have a few things to say about it for real.
I think the topics are a bit vague.
Yeah.
That special
But
services, that those are the consultants.
well, that's usually how government reporting is done.
Okay.
Right. There's a deeper breakdown that you can have, but it's too convoluted for the public consumption. But here's the increase the sheet again for you to see.
For the viewers to see, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. This is difficult. Because I'm heading in the direction the uh of what Nigel would have said. I
Uh-huh.
think structure is needed there. However, teacher training, as we mentioned, um, teachers will want uh, people who guided, who motivated, who inspired, and I think yeah, some of them that's their personality to be standoffish, etc. I just doing my job, and getting home. There's some who need some more training, but the priority there would be, as I said, I would agree with Nigel. Uh, Policy, I would agree with Nigel where that is concerned, and try a little bit to the teacher training as well too. A little bit to the teacher training. I only got one choice.
Well, you have to, there's
Good,
there's
good, 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 good.
right.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm going to give you guys now my alternate view on this, right? Look at the line which says tertiary, right? Look at the line which says tertiary. So in 2022, this is the first column which says actual expenditure. You had a budget of roughly $160 million, right? The following year, it increased to $185 million, right? So that's roughly like a $25 million jump that the government had to pay in additional expenses, right? It jumps from $185 million now to $198 million for 2024, 2025, which shows you that the government's bill for financing tertiary level education is growing and growing and growing. Hence why expenditure, you can see the increase in expenditure budgets, because these are not revenues, these are all expenses, right? And these come right out of the taxpayer dollars. So it's tax, VAT, income tax, corporation tax, rural tax, all the taxes we pay help to fund this, right? So here's the government with a problem that the tertiary level bill is going. If you define what's tertiary education, now that is university and community college, right? Now, we are having issues much further back in terms of performance at CSEC and KIT, secondary level. We are having levels at the primary school where the children are coming into secondary school struggling to understand basic concepts, ability to read, you know, a lot of issues back at primary school, right? So my thinking here, right, is that I would try to redirect some of the spending from
Tertiary.
the tertiary level education, right? And that means reducing some of the useless degrees that are offered at the tertiary level, right? The low enrollment ones or whatever, and try to tighten up at UE and tighten up at BCC and tighten up at Palmering, not to cut it that it falls, but to then spend some money in direction and policy, right? How to best restructure these institutions for modern day education offering, right? And if you spend some money at the primary school level and use focus mainly on the young population at the primary school level before they get to secondary school, because primary school is the most formative years, right? Adequate staff at primary school. Um, Barbados shut down a couple of schools. They shut down St. John Primary School, right? Because they say that the population of Barbados um, is dwindling, right? It's dwindling. So how is the population dwindling? If the population is dwindling, then that means that the people enrolling in school should be dwindling, which
Should
means that the
decrease.
right, which means that the education budget should also be dwindling. But what we can see here is increasing,
Increasing.
right? So that is my alternative view on that. So any comments from you guys?
Yeah, my question is under the tertiary, the last administration under the Democratic Labour Party, when they cut the payments to UE, is this something that you would suggest again, or you're looking at something different?
Well, as a person who experienced the cut, the cut was so drastic it hurt because it sent me to borrow a student loan, and to be honest, repaying a student loan is one of the most difficult things you could do, right?
Y-
So
Yeah,
I was never in favor of forcing people, and particularly young people at that time, to go and borrow uh upwards of $15,000, $16,000 for a 3-year degree, when the economic opportunities in Barbados are so low, job prospects are so low, right? Now, what I'm saying here is that fees could have been charged for the degrees that we have too many people uh
like
graduating a
management.
degree, right? You could
Yeah,
cut some of the offerings to management, right? You could cut down some of the offerings there and increase the offerings in science and technology. You could cut down some of the offerings for law because you're basically producing too many
too
lawyers
many
for such
lawyers.
a
Yeah.
small
hmm
jurisdiction. I put it into an area which is tied to the future development of the island, like how Singapore did it. So this is crisis time, right? This is not a time to be picky. This is crisis time where we're gonna have to do some abnormal betting on the population. So we're gonna have to create new frontiers and new areas, educate people where the state will have to pay for this education so that these we could develop new industries to be able to generate the revenue and the foreign exchange, want to pay down a lot of this debt that we're in, and also to invest back in the country to ensure that we have the adequate resources, IMF or no IMF, to keep Barbados fully functioning at the top tier, like how we traditionally were in terms of education.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, Ramon,
So
you
I
are Nigel.
I I would say from my perspective, the all the management degrees or all the lawyer degrees or what people typically trend towards is an indication of what is working in a sense. But no, it becomes more oversaturated, which means there are not as many opportunities as there are people available for them. Um, I would say the future vision has to be very clear because, as you did say, you say you're taking a bet. You're taking a bet on what now would be the forward steps that they would be able to follow either science, technology, or engineering degrees in order to now pursue a successful career. So in that case is more so the focus on the future vision that will be presented to the population in order for them to be confident in their decisions in what they pursue as higher education.
Well, an argument would be, for example, nurses and doctors. There are persons who have degrees, certificates in nursing and, medicine, and they can't get a job at QEH. But we are bringing in people from overseas to fill these positions. So what are we going to tell these people that have degrees, put in the work, but still can't get a job? And it's not
Correct.
it's not
Uh,
it's not that these positions, it's not that these careers are saturated. They're needed, but the opportunities are not given to them.
you are correct. I wonder how Barbados as a country has a nursing program and still nurses graduating the program can't find work, and we offloading nurses from other jurisdictions into the island, a small economy. But on the other end, though, um, we want to keep practicing alternate view, right? That the views that we put forward, in my opinion, are nationalist views, meaning home first, country first, right? But my migration for economic opportunity um has been the bedrock of many families around the world, right? Meaning people who will leave Barbados and the Caribbean and go into much larger jurisdictions like the UK, US, Italy, Germany, Europe, whatever, and repatriate monies back home to help build economy. No, my thing is here, right? Um, I am not opposed to people coming into Barbados to work and to get work, but I am also cognizant of the fact that um I I I I'm trying to keep an open mind because, as I said, I fully support people going where there's economic opportunity, where the opportunity exists, right? But for the way how our governments in the Caribbean practice their economics and practice their politics, they give us manifestos, they give us promises, they campaign on the fact that they would get us jobs. Like, we try to create a public service that is suitable to hire the best Barbadian nurses, the best Barbadian teachers, best Barbadian firemen, the best Barbados police, the best Barbados defense force. And then on the other hand, you hear all of the public servants complaining about how the pay is basically shit, how the treatment in terms of management is, how the possibility for promotions are, right? Um, what growth or what career growth can you get by taking on a public service job? And I heard Ramon speaking about being appointed, where the possibility of being appointed is so low and based off political favor. Um, so the question will not be asked, what is there to do in Barbados for young people who graduated university? Because as you see, Melissa, we are pumping the money in universities, but you don't have the job openings. So why stay here and continue to hit your head against the wall? Um, than to go over there overseas, sorry, and look for better economic opportunities for self, family, and possibly the country. Anyone?
Everybody's experience is different. From persons that I know, they would take opportunities. Let me say in Canada, the pay is higher, but when you come to rent and the cost of living is higher too. So it essentially comes back to the same thing in most places. So is it easier to travel and go overseas, or is it easier to stay and be with family? That's a predicament.
But there are a lot of programs that exist nowadays, the recruitment drives. There are a lot of economic opportunities and to work in hotels, by the way,
Mm-hmm.
and you know some opportunities. People, travel agents, um, the what was in there, air hostess, um, chefs. I know a
Right.
few chefs who went Palmyra who now live and work in Dubai, and these were fully expense paid opportunity recruitment opportunities where they went over there and know something has happened. Oh,
Okay. So it worked out for some.
yeah,
Okay.
so yeah.
Well, a couple of things here. Right? One, people going overseas, uh, and obviously, do they then, or is it that difficult overseas then that they can't afford to send back money here, obviously to help build the economy? That's the question. Are people going overseas, taking that opportunity overseas, and then sending the money back, and then is it building our economy? That's the first. That's the first question I got asked. I don't know if any viewers or anyone on the panel could answer it. But that because that's the only way it can be beneficial to our economy. We're talking about economy, right? And if and really and truly, if we are going through the challenges that we are going through, your first thought, your first priority should be Barbados's economy. So however, people going overseas, how it can benefit us. Well, that how it can benefit Barbados. That should be the first question uh, we should ask. I don't know if you have the figures to hand, or people who go overseas, how much money is being sent back, and how the how it's actually helping the economy. But that's something that we gotta look at. That's something we gotta look at it in a serious way, because I know that there were some people who came from one of the South American uh, countries, and they were able to come here. They work, and they were able to build their economy back home. And now I believe that they are actually in a better place. So it it is positive. It's positive once you have the people who have gone overseas. They're helping. They're sending up money and helping to build the economy. Right? That's my thing.
Mhm. And
Yeah.
that hardly happens.
Well, yeah, because as you mentioned the rent and so forth. So they're just struggling to survive themselves overseas. So that's a big challenge for sure. No doubt about that. That's a big challenge. So
Like I
yeah.
can definitely agree in saying that the cost of living overseas is extremely expensive. Here in New York City, New York City is probably top two expensive cities to live in the US. Los Angeles being number one. I do think in the past it was easier for people to migrate and be much more intentional about sending home money, sending home barrels, sending home whatever it was that would enable them to help their families. And the purpose of traveling was that. Whereas now in the present, I think the brain drain happening in Barbados is more so from, well, there are not many opportunities here. We will go and see if we could do better elsewhere.
Yeah. Well,
The- sorry, Kimar.
w-
Go ahead.
yeah. Well, you asked a question. Um, Melissa also touched on it, and Nigel just touched on it. But you specifically spoke to the monies that people would go overseas and send back, which is called remittances. There is a publication out there that was in the newspaper. I have it here, so I'm going to try to share it, and then we're going to read it, and then we're going to get into the audience a bit because we have a few comments, so we must remember to acknowledge the alternate viewers. But coming up on your screen should be you should be seeing World Bank Group any minute. Uh, yeah, so just waiting until that comes up so that we can get on with the discussion.
Yeah, sorry.
Uh,
And you asked Kimar about people coming out of UV and so forth, right? One of the options that I was told that they utilize, because they obviously need the experience, right? Because some of the options they ask for 20 years experience, and so they go wait, they obviously procure a different job. Is not in the field that they want to get really get into, and they're gonna do that job for 20 years. Then sometimes too, after the 20 years, then the experience, say, well, no, man, I've been beaten up too badly here. I sticking with this thing, right? And they never get to achieve their initial goals, So it can be a dream killer. So that is one of the the advices I was given by one of the people who would have been freshly out of UE. Uh, that's one of the things that their friends doing, and they're just getting any job that they can, so that they can breathe, so that they can live, so that they can afford the basics, and then trying to get that experience and trying to move on after that. But some don't always move on. Huh? Some don't always move on. So yeah, that is what is happening.
yeah. Well, um, contact Ramon for the best advice always. Literally. Right? Solutions based is yes. So Ramon asked me a question earlier, so I have an answer for you. So the World Bank Group is saying that cash flows into Barbados remain relative from relatives in the diaspora appear to have remained steady over the past year, reaching around 432 million or US 216 million, according to the latest World Bank data. This, as the Washington-based international financial institution indicated that remittances to low and middle income countries were projected to have grown a strong 7.3% to reach 1.198 trillion this year. Um, so you can see Ramon, it says that in the Caribbean, Jamaica continues to lead when it comes to remittance inflows, increasing to 7 billion, US 3.5 billion, and remittances inflows into Haiti were estimated to be about 6.2 or US 3.1 billion. Guyana is 786 million, US 393 million. Trinidad and Tobago 356 million, US 178 million. Suriname 340 million or US 170 million. Grenada 96 million or US 48 million. Uh, the authorities say that remittances should be seen as a key component of government policies to support the recovery from the pandemic. And I think that that is what we were also saying here, Ramon, in terms of remittances back into the country to help rebuild the Barbados economy. Um, and the authorities are definitely saying that it should be an area of focus if you're interested in recovering from the pandemic. So, hmm, alternative views. The thought drivers are here, all young, lovely people. So we want to officially know thank you all for supporting alternative views so far. We're up at 8:26 p.m. I am your host, Kemar Stuart, and as you see on the screen, we have uh, Ramon, who has been here for a while now, and we have Melissa, who is our brand new host, and this is her first evening with us. So we want to welcome Melissa officially again. For those alternate viewers who are not here early, we have Nigel Franklin, who is a Barbadian based in the US, doing some very good things over in America, and he is our uh, guest tonight. So let me just say hi to a few of you who have been contributing on the comments. Um, First, I want to say good night to all Barbadians, especially Barbadians from St. John. As we can see, all of my St. John people are on tonight. Uh, Let me also big up the city of Bridgetown. As always, we never forget the city of St. George, St. Philip, St. Lucie, all of St. Michael. Romario from St. Michael Northwest. Um, Melissa, I'm not sure which, um, you know, but big up where
I'm from your favorite place, St. John.
you are.
Yes, I
Whoa.
am.
So you heard it here, alternate views. You heard it here. So big up. Um, so let me introduce you to some fellow St. Johnians on here. Um, you have Tamika Harper, Lemuel Tell, Marcia, Esther Blue, Wendy Ford Griffith, um, Christopher Harris, Marilyn Braffett, Rhonda Paris, Danny Graves. Welcome again, Danny. Good to have you. Charlene Clark is saying good evening. Kimara, co-host. Education is the bedrock, the cornerstone of our nation's continued development. We had Tyrone Green. We had Richard Mears, who said that Barbados' education system was a eyesore to the IMF for a long time and he helped destroy it. Manasseh King, welcome to Manasseh. Very good to have Manasseh in. Square 4 is saying good night, Mr. Stewart, and good night, Mr. Ramon Goodman. Um, Good night, Mr. Nigel Franklin, and good night, Melissa Howard. So Square 4 said good night to every one of the hosts individually. Okay. Manasseh dropped in a comment. He said we need structural reform. That policy was put in place whereby persons who could afford to pay the tuition costs should not have been overturned. I guess he's speaking about the free education topic. I guess we could discuss that on another show, but that's going to become very heated. So we could do that later. And hopefully we could get the former minister Ronald Jones to come on and discuss that topic with us young people. I must say I'm going to tell y'all something no before y'all talk about these people in leadership roles doing the right things. Y'all got to know these people not only missing a few screws but the whole damn toolbox. Malassa is saying in the 70s, Trinidad had a shift system. Richard is saying the IMF do not help countries, it destroy the country. We should have done our homework before going to the IMF. Abba is saying it's one thing to talk educated, but it's another thing to apply. Camillus Lewis, connect to you. Um, Extra Blue is saying how can the IMF ask this government to privatize and pay school fees when this government came into power promising voters that education will and must be free. It's all about priorities and options. Square 4 is saying Jamaica is still reading under the IMF. Was watching a TV show down there. The fellas cooking before I come on, and the things in the supermarket 1,000 Jamaican dollars for things like corned beef, rice, etc. As the blue is saying, I agree with you, Melissa, 100%. Square 4 is saying, Melissa, right, Kemar, she right to say.
Hmm.
I I guess she was speaking about when,
Remove the
uh,
government. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Marilyn Bradford is saying, as long, oh, whoa, Prime Minister again, some lashes. Catherine Short is saying good night. So good night to Catherine. Hasbro, good night to you, Hasbro. Ronald Roach. Um, Tyrone Nurse. This is a fellow St. Johnian, Melissa. So
Hi,
good night.
Tyrone. I see
Yeah.
Oswald is there as well.
Yes, yes. Oswald
Hmm.
is here. Yeah, yeah. Uh, but we didn't get down to Oswald yet. There's so many comments. Hey, Square 4 said Jamaica went to the IMF under Mali. That is former Prime Minister Michael Mali about 40 or more years ago, and it is still under the IMF. Everything the IMF said Jamaica come to the last payment when the IMF man in charge tells them that. The bottom line is all of this crap is going on in Barbados because of the IMF. As the blue is saying, it's all about saving money for the wrong reasons. The Huron nurse is saying, taking his voice to still go to school and learn what they can do. Don't end up being fools. Sean Poole. If you look at the data, Argentina is the most indebted to the IMF with over 30 billion US. The IMF is a debt trap. A bank's purpose is to keep you in debt so that you keep paying interest.
Hmm.
Um, Imperator. I still need to know what is an imperator. Um, but Imperator asks, and this question is for Ramon, how did he link boredom to violence? Right? But he can answer that for sure later because I did ask him to help me understand it as well. Um, Abel said, I liken Barbados to a person that went that to a person that I gotta change the language here that has a high living standard and can't afford, so it borrows money to accommodate this lifestyle. That's true. Calvin McKenzie said the increase in focus should be at the primary level, the foundation, especially remediation programs in reading and math. I fully agree with this. Pedro Gemma is saying good night. FX Trading is saying good night. Kimara, guests, and viewers. John Jeremy is saying technology and technical studies. Calvin McKenzie agree with me. He said Kimar, correct Kimar, the degrees offered at KFA are not tied to the present and economic and future economic needs of Barbados. Say your university should be a part of your supply workforce, but how would you be supplying people for universities to work at Shafet or MAPS
Hmm.
or you get me? So still when you say A, you gotta say B. Um there's a lot of stigma associated with Barbados and um but right. Aaron Hunt. Good night, Aaron Hunt. John Jeremy said your people will be eligible for migration, so they will join middle class wherever they go and pay taxes and pay fees and duties wherever. Um, to drop Waldron, they said, Kimar, are you aware that government is on a mission to reduce public service by agreement with the IMF? John Jeremy said it's better to live paycheck to paycheck than none to none. Uh, Calvin McKenzie said, as a retired college professor here in Miami for many years, I know it's better. I'm not offering services to Bajan educators. Oswald Newton is saying good night. As you know, Oswald is a special patron of alternate views. So we want to say good night to Oswald and everybody else from St. John listening. Um, big up to Oswald and all of the others. So We've taken in all of the comments, if not most. So it is back over to us, the host. Now, Nigel, you would have traveled recently, I believe. Um, so I want you to share a bit of your travel experiences, and we're going to relate some of your travel experiences, however possible, back to the realm of education, right? Uh, and I'm sure the audience will look forward to hearing that. Now, what I'm going to do, um, if you want to, if you're using a laptop, you should be able to share your screen, I believe. Or so. I don't know if you have photo or so, but I think I should be able to get some up. I'm gonna try, but you could go ahead and share your um experiences.
Yeah. Recently took a trip to Ethiopia. Purpose being I wanted to feel, touch, know, and experience the culture of the only Black nation in this world that has never been conquered by a colonial system or imperial system. Um, I spent 3 days in Addis Ababa, which is the capital city of Ethiopia, and I spent 2 days in Lalibela. Lalibela is uh, quoted as the New Jerusalem. Um, if you are of the Christian faith, you would know that Ethiopia is one of the oldest empires of practicing Christianity. They practice Orthodox Christianity. And in Lalibela, there were 11 churches that were carved from the top down out of volcanic mountains and from inside out. The reason that this was done was due to the fact that the Ethiopian Christians that were pilgrimaging to Jerusalem at that time, there was a lot of Islamic conquest. So a lot of them would be murdered, killed, um, women would be taken, children would be taken. So the king at the time, King Lalibela, he saw fit, or he said he was ordered from God to establish a new Jerusalem in Ethiopia, since the Ethiopians were such devout Christians. What I did see in Ethiopia, which caught my eye, was that the culture is very, very strong in the sense of it hasn't been touched or tarnished by Western mindsets or perspectives. The family is still the bedrock of the community. Everyone in Lalibela, which is a more remote part. The picture that you're seeing right there is one of the monasteries that I went to. There's one of the Ethiopian priests. Um, I saw that there's a type of community that is there that I once experienced in Barbados that now is dwindling. Where there's an embrace of everyone just having that community type of mindset. Um, you can be a man in the community and you may be able to discipline a child that you have no idea who his parents are, but he's acting up on the streets, and that would not be an issue. Whereas in the Western community, in Western world, there is a perspective of, well, you don't know me, don't talk to my children. You know, that is not something that I saw in Ethiopia. Um, they're very, very faithful people to their faith. I think that is one of the reasons why they have standed so long. What it can look like to be fully governed by self and support self. Any questions, comments?
You're muted, Ramon.
You look there in that photo that National Geographics would have given you a job, man. That's that's how that photo there look. So, good coverage.
For sure, for sure.
Yeah,
And they're open and welcoming to people of the African diaspora seeking to have that experience. It was I had no issues. Everyone received me with love. I expressed to him why I was traveling to Ethiopia, and he was like, "Listen, I am going to make sure that you have one of the truest experiences here in Lalibela. Took me to his family home, uh, ate breakfast, lunch, and dinner with them. It was very reminiscent of what Sunday at my grandmother's house would have been, where everybody come for the plate of food. She do she barley, everybody get cut, and everybody's just in community. That is like every day for them. That's not just a Sunday. Every day in that community is like that, which is pointing to that family structure being very, very strong. That it made me smile to see that is a culture that still exists in the diaspora, but made me sad to know that as we have progressed and advanced, we have lost some of that integral family time, which shows up in many different ways in the community. As we can also look at that as the youth running wild right now because there's no elders really to
Leading.
instruct or
Mhm.
to discipline. So that could be one of the facts of the colonial system and them not having experienced that. Why that is so still strong and pure. It was definitely a treasure to experience.
Is it somewhere that you would go back to?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I
Mm.
would encourage everybody, mostly my to really, if they can, to take that journey just to experience that. I think it would confirm a lot for what our culture is and
Mhm.
could be as it progresses, and just to have that idea, you know, just to have that vision.
but just to make light of the conversation, I am a foodie. How was the food?
The food, the food
Yeah.
was amazing actually. So they have a food that they have carried from generation to generation. It's called injera. It's kind of a bready type material, but they eat all of the meats with this injera. So every meal you would receive this injera type bread, and then you would choose what type of meat you want, whether it be goat, chicken, um, and the food isn't heavy food. They eat a lot. I was told that it is rude to leave any food back that you eat. So but it's not a filling type of food because as you can see, most Ethiopians are slim in nature.
Mm.
I rarely saw anyone that was obese. You would see, big people or big bodied people, but obesity is not something that is prevalent in that part of the world.
But what you said just now, that would definitely corroborate the fact that elders are very much involved in society. Because I had a grandmother, you
Absolutely.
can't, you give she, actually she gives you enough food and then you can't left back then. Right? She
No,
always,
no,
yeah, and every 5 minutes she asks me, "You hungry? You hungry?" Just turn
absolutely.
your belly up to your mouth. So, that definitely corroborates the fact that elders play a major role in society over there, and that's important, as you mentioned earlier.
Absolutely. Pivotal, actually.
Well, while you girls were speaking, I tried to get some clips on, but they were drawing out the voice, so I didn't play them too long. So I just want to show some of the uh brief clips from there. They're short. So people, because I saw Tyrone here saying that he liked the brick road. So I just want to get that back up on the screen quickly if you guys don't mind.
So this was Sunday morning at 6:30. and the children are outside playing football while all the adults are preparing to head to Sunday Mass at their respective churches within Lalibela. That was a sight to see for me.
That is a little nostalgic there. That reminds me of when I used to kick the ball, try to play a little football on the road and thing, stump my toe on many occasions, end up going inside. So very nostalgic. So that looks really really nice for sure. At 6:30, 6:30 in the
6:30 in the
morning.
morning.
In the morning.
Absolutely.
Oh.
In
In
the
the
morning.
morning.
And
Oh,
one thing I did notice as well, there is an abundance of youth. It is the children are bountiful. There are many, many children. Like so I don't think whereas in Barbados they're saying that we are not producing as many children as we can or we should. That is not a problem over in Ethiopia.
Yeah, yeah. All right. So let's get bountiful in Barbados.
Be fruitful
Yeah,
and multiply.
yeah, yeah. So we're gonna get some more clips, short clips here going.
So what that
All right,
is
go ahead.
St.
Go ahead. Go
George's
ahead.
Church. That is one of the last of the 11 churches that were established. What was said was that that church represents it represents Noah's Ark in a sense, how it was designed, how it was built. Give me 1 second. Let me try to. I have content of the description of the tour guide that was given me. Give me a second. Let me pull that up. Uh,
Yeah. In the meantime, while he pulls that up, we're going to try to get a photo of the church. As you can see, he's wearing the Black Champion brand. You know, is a hoodie brand, right? So that's part of his merchandise packaging. You know, but look at the bill of this. Look at the bill of this property. All the way in Ethiopia, they actually dug and went down, right? So look at the architecture over there compared to here, where we usually dig the foundation, but we build and go up
Mm-hmm.
in the air, right? So if not for traveling, right? If not for having technology to be able to see these parts of the world, we would never really have a full holistic experience to see that there are other cultures out there that exist other than what we have here in the Caribbean, and if they are fully functional and they work. Um, so I don't know what lessons we could take from Ethiopia. So hopefully when Niger comes back on, he could give us some further information. But I'm guessing that this here is the top of the building. Um, you can see some type of pattern on the top. I don't know what is the pattern. You know, as much as I would love to go, I've never been to Ethiopia. The closest I've been to Ethiopia is hearing about Haile Selassie and Empress Zero Mele from the Rasta community in Barbados. So big up Bongolites and Lumumba and the entire Rastafari community who provide that education for you to learn about your roots and learn about Africa and learn about Marcus Garvey and uh, right now there's a big push for Barbados to link with Africa. I think it was Minister Kerry Simmons who announced that uh, Barbados will be having direct flights from Ghana, Accra, Ghana, straight here, straight back there, straight here, and we no longer have to go to England, right? No, I suspect these flights are going to cost an arm and a leg, right? So Africa as a tourist market for us, Ramon, for Melissa, we've been receiving nurses and from Ghana, but what about Barbadians now having the opportunity to go to Africa, to one of the different states, and work, get a job, have the live lifestyle, a middle class lifestyle, a upper middle class lifestyle, farm a business, live first class, whatever, and to be able to do repatriation, to be able to do trade, to be able to innovate and create new ecosystems for much younger Barbadians to follow. So what are you guys thinking about this?
I see it as an opportunity, but there has been a stigma about Africa for many years, seen as a third world country, a continent that is very impoverished. So it's not seen as something attractive to many persons to be a place to live. So I believe if Barbadians know more about Africa, there'll be a increase in the interest to travel or possibly live there. But for me personally, I've never been there. Um, Seeing the photos and the videos right now would be the first time that I've really seen Africa per se. So it seems like an interesting opportunity.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, with these things, especially with Africa, before the real surge of social media and so forth, I always thought that all of Africa was pure bush and people chanting. No, serious. Mainstream media has made it look that is bush and chanting. But obviously, if you do some more research, there's some beautiful places in Africa. Beautiful places, right? And the more you become educated where Africa is concerned, I believe that you will see Africa in a different light. Right? There's some wealthy people in Africa as well, too. Lovely buildings,
Yeah, yeah,
and so
full of
forth,
resources.
full of resources. Right. So the more education, I gotta see. Obviously, we gotta look into people going overseas, going to Africa, and obviously sending back some funds, some money. What are the opportunities there, and we move to so. But in order for Africa to become more attractive, you must do your research because for some reason, mainstream media portrays Africa as bush and lions and all types of things and chanting, right?
Yeah,
Which
basically
we,
desert. Yeah,
yeah.
That
So
is that is so unfortunate, and purposely.
yeah.
Africa is bountiful. While they're in Lalibela and in Addis, I saw people that I was like, well, this look like my aunt. This gonna be my cousin. Even our host Kemar Stuart, I showed a couple of the people. I was like, if you look at this guy, would you not think that he's from Ethiopia? They say, yes, he could walk around here and he would be a local. So it is of no surprise why they portray Africa in that sense. We know Africa is the most resource dense continent in the world. And we could see from Chinese to Russians to the Americans, they have an abundance of investments, not only in the land, but in the people as a commodity for their use. And yeah, they're right in the comments. Ethiopia is currently in year 2017. They just recently had their new year, and the reason for that is they do not follow the Gregorian calendar like in the West. They follow the calendar from biblical times. So their start of their empire would be from uh, after the death of Christ or AD. I have the video ready. You would have to tell me if you can see it. Give me 1 second.
So in the meantime, he gets the video ready. What we're going Right.
There we go.
As you guys
Can,
know,
can, can you see the video now?
um,
I can't see
no,
us yet.
No.
you click on shared, you click on share screen. Like, um, you have to
Perhaps
share this.
just WhatsApp it to Kemar and get him to upload it.
Okay, I will do that. Give me 1 second.
I have
All
a
right.
video here. Um, that I was gonna play. Um, I think it's the one with you speaking to the guy in the tunnel.
Okay, you can play that.
Yeah.
What does it mean?
Um, so Los Barbados, when
Is it Lost Barbados?
so that was the original name because the Spaniards discovered
Spanish people?
there were people living there before, but they discovered Barbados,
Yeah.
and there are a lot of trees called bearded fig trees, big trees that look like have a lot of beard. So
Okay.
they called it Los Barbados for the bearded ones.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Now we can go.
You have the video?
Yes, I made it, and I made video about Barbados. You did expert.
Okay.
That's good idea.
This is a cultural exchange.
Yes, true. Can you tell me what does Israel mean?
Israel. So in Hebrew, Israel means those who wrestle with God. Wrestling with God means intuitively they want to do right, but they are influenced or maybe do something bad, but they feel very bad about it. So they always run to God.
Okay.
So they wrestle, they're fighting themselves, they're fighting to follow wholly and solely and for themselves.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So there you have
So
it.
so the structure you just saw, as I said, in Lalibela, the churches and the structures were designed to represent a new Jerusalem. So the structure you just saw literally represents the biblical verse where it says it is easier. I'm losing it right now, but you'll be familiar with the verse that speaks about the rich man not being able to enter the eye of a needle. So
Yeah,
that
yeah, a
structure
rich
in
man didn't
itself
make
represents that.
right, a rich man will not make it to heaven, basically.
Correct.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
There's a lot of symbolism. Everything has a meaning, um, which goes back into the depth of the faith that they practice, because everywhere you look, there's a meaning behind it, and they're cultured and taught to be in constant remembrance of that.
Yeah. But I have a short one more clip, so I'm gonna play that short clip.
So that is Sunday Mass at St. George's Church. So Sunday there, and everyone wears some type of scarf. I was told that it is in remembrance of how Jesus walked when he was in Jerusalem, when he went back to Jerusalem. Everyone has donkeys, everyone has a cow, everyone has sheep. It's almost like literally stepping through a portal to the past. But it is a very rich and solid culture. This is in one of the churches with one of the high priests. As you can
This
see
is
there, all the art is of in remembrance of Christianity and all the biblical stories that you're familiar with.
so is it like Christianity as practiced in Barbados, as you know?
Negative, negative, negative. Not to
Well,
say there's anything wrong with that, but I do think due to colonialism, due to imperialism, where their practice is untouched, ours, may have been influenced with the Western world and modern society.
what would you say would be the difference between the two?
That's a very good question. The difference between the practices, one is more deeply embedded into the culture, whereas I think the Christianity in the West, not just singling out Barbados, but it's more of practical practice. Whereas is you practice it as it's efficient to you. Whereas in Ethiopia, no, it has nothing to do with you. This is just the truth and how we live it.
Okay. So it does not come down to rituals and daily routines. It's just a way of living.
Pretty much.
Okay.
Whereas over there, they followed the customs very, very close. Every time they pass a church, they would make the cross across their chest. Every time they enter a church, they would even kiss the church. Or there's a blessing ceremony that the priests do as they walk up to the priest. See how he holds a cross. Give me 1 second. I was gifted a cross. So it would be a cross of this form
Mm-hmm.
that the priests usually walk around with, and if they meet any of the common folk, they would walk up to the priest and get a blessing in that sort of way. But it is very deeply, deeply embedded to the culture, very, very deeply embedded to the culture. And I think, just from a personal perspective, that is also why the culture is somewhat untouched. All of the emperors and the kings were very devout Christians. The king that was in charge at the time, King Menelik II, he was the one who defeated the Italians when they first came, and the second time as well.
Interesting, interesting. Things I never heard of at school at no point in time.
Yeah, you won't hear
Um,
it.
Definitely.
But Niger, two things, right? One, that little tight passage that you went through there. Anybody that is claustrophobic would have a real serious challenge. So kudos to you. Firstly, secondly,
Mm.
the gown you're wearing. You know what it's called?
It doesn't have a specific name. It's just
Okay.
it's just a it's just like they would call it like a scarf. They would
Okay.
call it like a scarf, and that would be anyone from the young to the old. That's just a practice in what they do. As they told me, it just represents how Jesus walked with covering. And that is as deep as it goes. But everybody from the young to the old, the men to the women, they all would adorn themselves in that manner.
The temperatures there. You get the sun, the heat of the sun, or you get the father. Which one you get?
So
Huh?
actually, it was the for the time that I was there, it was pretty cool. And I will tell you in Fahrenheit, I can't really do the calculation in Celsius right now, but it was like mid 60s to mid
Oh, that
70s.
that's cool. That's not really cool, but
Yeah,
cool.
but the
That's
sun
real
was
cool.
out.
Mhm.
I would tell you the altitude of Ethiopia is very, very high, so it was it was a challenge
Breathing.
breathing at a certain point, but not
Mhm.
breathing to the point where you can't, but you can tell that you're having you're having to breathe a little deeper because the air is a lot thinner
Thinner.
at that altitude.
You think that's why they build their houses
Below.
a little deeper? Um, you think so?
It possibly could be.
Yeah. Okay. Because I think that would do well. I don't think they have storms there or anything like that. I don't think so. Maybe not. But in terms of the weather, obviously with your roof and everything on the ground like
Mhm,
that, to a certain extent, I bet it would do
mhm,
better. In adverse weather. I'm thinking. Now
mhm,
this is me being a novice when it comes to architecture. So
mhm. All good, man. We all learning, lifelong learners, man.
it's true. It's true.
yeah, yeah. Well, like the question you just asked someone about the architecture, I'm very amazed at the outlook of the building. I saw an image, right? I saw an image on one of the walls of the church that was very eye-opening for me. No, this is not a philosophy show. This is not a religious show. This is alternate views. So we're here to get different perspectives and garner information and wherever that information leads, I hope it leads us to the truth. But I want to put this image up, like zoom in, and say that I've never seen an image like this. And this different cultural background has me very interested in learning a lot more um about the culture because I want to get as close to the truth as possible. Now, worshiping, um most of these are temples, I suppose, so people would go in there. Um I remember that there are pyramids all over the world. Um and there were certain spiritual benefits associated with entering into these buildings, right? So I am also assuming that the architecture of the building that we saw in Ethiopia has some type of spiritual benefit or spiritual connotation to the residents or the people of Ethiopia, right? But more than all, this image that I'm going to put it here, hope it is not offensive to anyone, but I need some answers because it is not an image that I quite recognize here in Christian Barbados.
Okay, so what
But
you're
for
seeing
some reason, this image
depiction.
don't watch.
Can
I
can
can't
you
see
hear
it.
me?
It's showing up.
I'm seeing it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I can see it.
we can see it.
Yeah,
So what you're seeing is a depiction
I
of
can't see. My thing is probably
Father
stuck.
God, which would be on the right hand, Jesus Christ, which would be on the left, the Holy Spirit representing the dove, and there's a crown above a lady. Now that lady is Mary, who would be Jesus's mother. What I found too in Ethiopia, they hold Mary in very very high regard, very very high regard, in reference as she was the portal in which Jesus Christ was born to. She was chosen to be the mother of the Son of God. So they hold her in very high reverence. I also think that is why too the women in the community are also respected in such a very the respect of womanhood. They hold their women in very very high regard.
We have a comment here. Somebody say, "Ha ha ha! It's a black and a white Godhead." Yeah. They will have to say where they're laughing. But this image is not an image that you would regularly see in
Hmm.
this side of the hemisphere. No, I am asking the questions, right? We see we have a divergent view. Somebody saying that that image ain't cutting it at all, right? So again, how we started, education, right? We all need to be educated about the information that is out there, right? So we have some person at the on this side of the world saying that the image is not cutting it, but we have an entire culture of people who acknowledge and worship these images and have a life and a culture and everything around them. And then there's the opposing view. So my thing is, this is where education needs to bring our possibilities to the front. Um, I suppose leaving Barbados to go into other culture, or leaving the Caribbean, I should say, going into other cultures who do not have the same culture, either be it religious, political, or otherwise. Usually, our people get culture shock, right? Shell shock, right? So, how are we as young people? Um, how are we supposed to handle these culture shocks? How are we supposed to decide, Ramon, which way is which? How are we able to decipher if the education, right? If the education is not there for us, if we have to speculate, you know, like if y'all understand the confusion I'm facing right now, right? Um, so anybody can help me out with it.
The only thing I would say is that they don't worship the images. It is more of in remembrance. I think if we get up with this idolization when we say worship images, is more of
Idolatry.
just constant remembrance.
Okay, okay. Well, again, education. It doesn't make sense to leave our people ignorant. Um, if it is that the we socialize people in these parts of the world to have one belief, um, or to have specific beliefs, because the Caribbean is multicultural in terms of beliefs. We have many different denominations, right? Christian denominations. We have Islamic and Muslim influence. We also got Obe, and we also got Voodoo and spirituality, right? And these things happen all day, every day, right here in Barbados too, right? Um, but my point is here is that growing up as a young person coming through the education system, the information available is so limited, and they bring it down to maths and English. Now, I've never reused Pythagoras theorem in my life since I left school, right? I never had to use um all of these fancy concepts that I learned in mathematics or any of these things. But I learned about God and Jesus and religious studies, you know. I learned about sex and humans and animals and social studies and biology. And these were tools that equipped me for today, that I know that nobody cannot necessarily move me off my belief in, the Most High God, because I was educated, not at school at first, but in the home, right? It started in the home, and then you took that practice to school, so it was easy to blending with that. But as time fast forward, then you started to see an emergence of different cultures into the Barbadian school system, right? And they started to basically reduce the emphasis on religious class or religious studies, right? It is not a situation of brainwashing people into a particular belief, but it's religious studies, the study of religion, right? And the different belief systems. Right? We were not even taught it in depth, right? To the point we're speaking about it now, but at least we had a basis in schools. And this was in primary school and secondary school. But in latter years, they started to remove that religious education, right? Um, I think by now the prob almost ban prayers now. Um, I think that by now they remove religious education from the curriculum. So what I'm saying here now is that I could bet you some sort of money that the information that you were able to gather over in Ethiopia, that you got the basis of that information while you were in the public school system in Barbados. Is that a claim that I could substantiate, or I'm totally wrong?
I would say I would agree. I would say yes. The basis coming from a being taught in a Christian nation like Barbados. Yes, you would have the primary understanding of what Jesus says, what God represents, how that story came to be, embedded into prayers in the morning, at assembly, during lunch, etc. So yes, the foundational information to be open enough to receive or to listen to another perspective. And again, it's coming from a perspective of the only African nation that has never been conquered or imperialized. So when my seeking, that was the primary reason to experience that, knowing that we all in the West, we ain't really come from the West. We end up here due to the Atlantic slave trade.
Yeah, interesting. Well, we're up at 9:15, so we want to hear from Ramon and Melissa. And then we're going to wrap up in the final segment and ask each of the panelists to recap most of what we discussed tonight. So your parting comments before we move into the last session. Ramon, I haven't heard you for a while.
Yeah, still here, still both here. I think one of the viewers they would have asked the question, the correlation between um, boredom and violence. That's correct. Am I correct? Okay.
Yeah.
There's a
Boredom,
right then.
boredom,
So to sum it
and
all up
violence.
in summation, there's an old adage: idle hands are the devil's workshop. Right? Idle hands. Let's let that digest it. Idle hands are the devil's workshop. Right? Keep yourself busy. Keep productive, and um, it would distract you from all the other negative distractions as much as possible. Right? So that's the answer to that caller. Um, well, not the caller, sorry. Again, on the air on brass stats. The, 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 the viewer, right? Yeah. So that's the question.
Yeah. Hello, hello, good morning. This is Dr. Brass Stats. This is your host, Ramon Goodman, speaking. Oh, man. Yeah. So, Melissa,
Hmm.
over to you.
Um, we're wrapping up now.
No, we're gonna
Oh,
take any comment on the issues that we discussed, the last issues, and then we're gonna
oh, religion.
do the exact. Yeah.
Yeah, I try to avoid religious discussions. I am, how to say this? I am not one for a particular religion. Um, as how to put this? When you focus too much on religion, sometimes it takes you away from your relationship with God. You
Yeah.
try to person start to focus too much on rituals, daily routines. You know, why you supposed to do get up and go to church on Sunday? I have to do this, but when you leave church on Sunday, what are you actually doing between Monday and Saturday? I believe that we should more be focused on our practices, like how we live, how we interact with other people, how we, when you see somebody on the street, do you say good morning? Do you give them a kind word? That kind of thing. So I try not to get into religious arguments. I don't want to touch that subject.
Yeah. Well, totally understand. This is Barbados. Tends to be judgment central
Hmm.
quite a bit of the time, so we don't want that happening. But your view is an alternate view, and we appreciate it. But I do understand your point. Now, apart from religious education, I learned a lot about life and society from health and family life education and from having personal sessions with not the guidance counselor per se, but sessions organized by the guidance counselor um, with the principal, with the deputy principal, with a male teacher, where it was just the boys segregated from the girls. The boys had their own talk by a man, not a transgender man, or not a masculine man, right? And the females were spoken to by a female, a feminine female. And that segregation and that level of education helped me, along with my peers, to go through serious self development. So it was not only religious education that was needed, right? The same way how I don't believe right now that the crime situation in Barbados needs a religious solution, right? I don't think it needs a religious solution, right? But I think it I think it needs a more holistic approach, right? Which has some level of uh enforcement, some level of religious spiritual understanding, some societal interventions in terms of guidance program, health and family life uh, program, along with an economic program which could assist you to make the requisite income and the money that you need to make whatever transitions in life and to become a lifelong learner. Right? So that's my 2 cents. Now we have come to the end of our topic. So right now is the recap, the wind up. So we're gonna ask everybody to do a brief recap of the session tonight, their thoughts, any additional uh, opinions, any additional information they wanted to share that they didn't quite get to share. Um, if you introduce new points, you might want to run over and talk because you know how we do our alternative views. But any new points introduced, we will discuss on another program. But you're very well, you could introduce them, but not for discussion. So, um, thanks. Nigel is the guest, right? Since Nigel is the guest, we're gonna ask him to go last. Ramon, since you're the resident host, yes, you're the resident host. Um, we're gonna ask you to comment first, and then we're gonna give Melissa as the privilege of being. This is her first alternate views. We're gonna give her the privilege of collecting her thoughts and going second because you know people don't like to always go first. So over to you, Ramon Goodman.
So that's simple. Well, firstly, we started off with having another lovely co-host, a nice, gentle, pleasant face on the show. Not only did she have that type of presence, but when she also communicated, it was of value, of worth. That's the first thing first. Secondly, you brought up there was a chart you brought up in terms of the expenditures and how they were allocated, and that was extremely useful. The viewers didn't see it the first time, so you brought it up again, and we did some commenting. It would have been nice to have a breakdown on what the topics or the headings, what it really entailed. Um, but I guess that can be done in on another show, right? Secondly, I guess everyone would have given their point of views regarding what they're prioritized, and that's one of the things that would have occurred as well. So there was some correlation between obviously lack of education, some, not all, and violence. Right? There were obviously other factors involved where that is concerned. We also took a trip to, it was Ethiopia, that's correct?
Mm-hmm.
We took a trip to Ethiopia. We got claustrophobic. We were able to wear that gown, with Nigel, right? And that was it. We saw different types of architecture. Sorry, we saw different paintings. And then lastly, we saw a different view regarding religion, uh, and how it's looked at differently in different places. So that's my recap. That's what I can remember so far.
Yeah.
All right.
That,
I thoroughly enjoyed the trip to Ethiopia. Um, Found it very interesting. Um, a different culture experience, something that we don't see every day. Um, just a question, Nigel. For those who would be interested in actually traveling, could you give us an idea of the cost associated with the trip?
It's I would say in Ethiopia, their currency is called BIRR. They recently just entered an IMF program as well, up to 3.4 billion in July. So, and I know that would be good information for Kemar to dive into.
So, what was it?
Um,
Sorry, not to disturb you,
mhm.
but the conversion rate between the BRR and the US?
So one US would be either 108 birr or 114. I can't quite recall right now, but anywhere within that region.
Okay.
Mhm. The trip from US, there are Ethiopia has their own airline, Ethiopian Airlines. You have direct flights from the US going there. However, that would be more expensive, that direct flight. So I took Kenyan Airways, a 14-hour flight from the US to Kenya, and then a 2-hour flight from Kenya to Addis Ababa. Um, I would say budget anywhere between, just for travel costs, would be anywhere between 900 and something US to upwards to 2,000. The lower cost being the 900 area.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right. Thanks for the information. Pertaining to the schools, right, we are obviously seeing a decline in our school system, and slowly and gradually we're seeing parents being asked to contribute to other things that normally the government would normally be providing. That you see more parents now having to buy photocopy paper. I saw a clip online with a particular school in St. Peter. I don't know if it is factual information or not, where students are being asked to pay $20 towards physical education. So imagine now a parent with 3 children, that's an additional $60 a week towards physical education. So the path that the educational system is going, it seems like if parents, families are being asked to pay more towards education.
Sorry, Melissa, I know you have limited information on it, right? But by chance, that is on top of buying the pants and shirt. I don't
Yeah,
know if
yeah,
there's still a pants and shirt that they wear.
yeah,
And
definitely.
that is to go on the past and kick ball
I,
and run boat.
yeah, I
Because
have no idea.
let me tell you, sometimes at the back in those times, you go on the pasture and you just run boat. The teacher just tell you like, gun run boat. So that's sign ups for you. I
Yeah,
can tell you
it's
that. Yeah,
crazy.
on top of the pants and sure. All right, cool, bless.
Yeah, so that's my contribution to the wrap up.
Well, thank you guys. It's my turn. Um, I had a very good discussion this evening, so let me thank you guys first and foremost for making it that way. I actually enjoyed the different perspectives from each one of you. It didn't go originally as planned, but actually went better because it started off quite rocky. But I was glad to have Nigel in much earlier than planned, and the conversation actually went very smooth. Um, so yeah. So in wrapping up quickly though, my 2 cents on what we discussed so far was basically the reform to the education system and how those proposed changes will impact society, the possible removal of the 11 plus and the impacts that it could have in the long term. We looked at the reality that Barbados is under an IMF austerity program and how that austerity program will possess a huge block to the continued 100% universal state funded education that Barbados has. Um, I'm of the opinion that the traditional model that we had faces the IMF and faces the knife of the IMF and the surplus targets and the deficit targets, along with the increases in interest payments and the more money that we have to bill to the IMF, the IADB, the CDB, and the multilateral world because of how indebted uh, Barbados is. When we put the picture on the screen with sport to the tertiary level education, we see that there's a massive jump of at least $25 million um, in budget towards tertiary level education, and a conversation needs to be had with Barbadians again about the rate that financing towards the expenses of tertiary level education is having, and the underfunding and of primary and secondary education, along with the underfunding of direction and policy to ensure that the Ministry of Education works for Barbadians. I had a very good religious discussion. Um, we had started out alternative views with a religious base. We had a heavy, deep discussion, so we don't run away from the hard topics. And I loved the trip to Ethiopia, as alternative views is an international show, is an international program recognized on a global scale as an emergent venture for 2024. And based off the next program, you could clearly see why Alternative Views was given an award to be an emergent venture to bring both economic and social change to the world. So I want to express my gratitude to all three of you. Um, yes, so thank you guys for coming on. So Nigel, I hope you don't be a stranger to Alternative Views. Um, as you travel and have more experiences, the program is very much open to you to come back and participate, given the time. Um, Ramon, you're a resident host, and Melissa, she will also become a new resident host as well on every Thursday. This show is youth led, right? This show is youth led, but this show is also heavily supported by the elders who pass on the wisdom to us, the younger people, to be able to bring about that societal and economic change that is much needed not only in Barbados but throughout the Caribbean and throughout the world. Now, Tyrannos is saying I forgot to mention the audience. Never would I. Never ever would I. I always leave the best for last, which is the audience is why we're here. They give us the strength to be here every Thursday. They give us the strength to continue sharing. And at one point in time, we might pass 200 and some viewers at one point, which is good. So we thank you all for liking alternate views. We thank the alternate viewers for sharing alternate views. We thank the alternate viewers for sharing their alternate views in the comments. We try to respond and chat with you, you know, uh, depending on the questions asked. So Tyrone, Mr. St. John, uh, we have not and we will not forget you guys. So we express gratitude to our audience, our international audience from the US, the UK, Ireland, Italy, Germany, France, all over. And you usually would put the names and the places, Ramon, as they usually do, uh, as to where they come from. So, with that being said, though, I'm going to ask any of you if you wish to say anything else before we um, sign off.
I would just say thank you for allowing me to come on the Alternate Views platform, the internationally known Alternate Views platform, to uh, share my brand, share my experiences. Again, my brand is Black Champion Lifestyle Extraordinary. It's a play on the word ordinary because I believe that it's the ordinary things in life that give us the trueness and the fullness of life. So we just being extraordinary. Thank you for allowing me to share my travels to Ethiopia. The only, and I can continue to press this in the head of the people, the only Black nation that has never been conquered or colonized, which gives them that type of culture that has been untapped by anything foreign. That's why they represent very strongly for the African diaspora of what self governance looks like and could be. I also enjoyed the conversation about education. As you know, education is the key, and I always keep this on me. When we have these conversations about the IMF, because I was not none the wiser earlier. So thank you all the time, and again, thank you alternative viewers for allowing me to be on this platform.
Hey, anybody else? Ramon,
We
you
know,
good?
we know we love it here. We love it here. No doubt with that.
Yes.
Squad
Yes,
elite
Melissa, you
because
good?
it's squad elite. Viewers,
Yes.
conversations, everything, right? So I just want to encourage everyone to continue to come through. This is alternate views.
Yeah. All right. So Melissa, you good?
Yeah, I'm good. It was an honor being here tonight. First time I learned a lot, and I hope that my contribution was, helpful and informative.
Yes. Very much so. Very much so. I thank you very much for being here. No alternative viewers. We have come to the end of our program. So let me say good night to some of the loyal Patreon viewers. I stole that slogan from one of my YouTube heroes, Patreon supporters. So shout out to AMS. Thank you for the slogan. So loyal Patreon supporters, Pedro, Chairman, that's the blue. I haven't seen Deal on tonight. Peter King, Tyrone Nurse, Square 4, Amanda. Thank you very much, Amanda. Amanda say thank you for thanking us. God's riches, continual divine supernatural blessings upon all of us. Stay blessed, are awesomely highly favored of the Lord. As the blue said, well done, panelists. It's always interesting to pick the minds of the youth, and we adults are thankful that the country is in good hands. Mr. Angel, this is another St. Johnian, Melissa. So, connect to her. She's saying very informative program, Mr. Short and panelists. Thank you so much. Lady Vaughn, Sir Alfred Benjamin, I didn't see you on tonight, but good night to you. Good night to Marcia Weeks as well. Don't forget to sign on to the Marcia Weeks show tomorrow on her page, 7 p.m. the usual. And I think Marcia has her solemn walk on March this Sunday um, in support of the victims of the Nelson Street massacre. So you want to go out there and support Marcia Weeks and everybody on the program. Big shout out to Caswell Franklin. Big shout out to the DLP, everybody in the DLP, everybody in Barbados. Thank you very much. Big up the Caribbean Progress Studies Institute. Love and support you very much. Thank you also for endorsing alternate views. Um, Stuart and Perkins Caribbean. Soon to be Stuart and Perkins Global. Just how alternate views has gone worldwide. So with that being said, we're signing off, and we will usually run our play screen after. So thank you very much, host and guest. Thank you very much, alternate viewers. I am your host, Kemar Stuart, and we are signing out of here. Goodbye.